If you've been waiting as long as I have to complete this Starro, then this video is certainly for you. Not only will I show you how to paint it, but how to add some lights to those eyes. And if you like Starro or are a fan of this character or this villain, well, you know he doesn't come with a stand. So you'll have to makeshift a stand like this that's for a 12-inch figure or something else that you may have. And it's still an awkward way to place him. But if you've got a display, this Starro is going to look amazing. But let me show you how to take Starro from the box and make him that much more dynamic for your display. Let's get started. In this video, we're going to cover the electronics that are inside this figure, and it's only a few pieces, and I think you'll enjoy how simple it is to put it together. And yes, I will leave the links in the description for you to acquire your pieces to put into the figure. Now this is the paint that I will be using for the two techniques required on this particular project, dry brushing, and yes, I will be using an airbrush. In my case, I used this particular model. If you've got one, it doesn't matter. An airbrush is an airbrush and it will give you the same results. I won't stretch out this video any longer than it has to, especially all the months that we've waited to put it together. So I'm going to let you watch the video and watch the technique in painting and dry brushing, and then the airbrush. So if you are painting one piece at a time like I am doing here, because this is how I ended up acquiring it, it's going to take you a while because you're going to have to place each piece individually. However, now that I have everything together, I painted it and retouched it all together so that it would match. Now, with the hand brush, going in for those details after airbrushing is going to be important if you want to keep that realism in the figure. And there's an incredible amount of detail here. So if you want to do it with this technique or just dry brushing, it'll work. Just choose one and go with it, and make sure your figure is dry before you seal it or handle it once again. And choose your particular brand of sealant for this to work out. I went with the matte finish, and then on the suction cups I did add a glossier finish or a satin finish, so it has a slightly different texture. You want to go with the wet look, that's great. Now, let's switch over to the airbrush and switch the pieces, cover up the actual eye, and use that blue to give it that tone that it technically has in the comics. Because the color that we see here, this magenta, that's not the correct color that's in the actual storyline. But if you've got an airbrush, this makes it much easier. Can you do it with dry brush? Absolutely. It's just a lot quicker, and it looks even nicer with the airbrush. Now, one thing that's going to be important no matter what project or what size, always try to seal your work with that particular varnish that you may have or sealant between the different layers of paint that you're applying. So for example, after airbrushing this or using a dry brush, let it dry, cover it in or over with the sealant, wait for that to dry before going back in and adding details. Reason is, if your paint is wet and you're painting on that particular surface, it can reactivate certain paints depending on the brand, and then you'll end up with swirls instead of actual details, and you'll have a harder time achieving the desired result. So it is best to take that precaution and put in those sealants between those layers to avoid any other mishaps. You'll find your work a lot cleaner, and you'll enjoy painting that project that much more. Now, of course, this video has a divided interest, some in paint and some in the electronics. And if you want the electronics for that eye to glow, well, let's talk about it, because once you do it right, it's going to look pretty awesome. It should look like the following clip. So this is what's inside after taking off the face paint from the figure. I've got a button cell inside with 2 leads, negative, positive, right built into a switch. This is from ebondesigns.com. Now the potentiometer on the right, which is on a pulse board, is then hooked to these 2 leads. That is from lightmybricks.com. Sorry, I totally forgot that. And this potentiometer that you see here has that variable power or dimming, and the one that's in the unit actually has a selection switch, so it has different pulse selections. This is a light strip. It's got a self-adhesive back. You can cut it in half to have 2 lights, and then you can link it just like it is here, left and right side, and you can get a third one to place on the center. And because it's got the adhesive strip, it'll be easy to place it where you need it. And all of this will link up each light with one of these connectors. One light has a connector that goes to the board, and the same for each of the others. If you want to get longer pieces or join them together, you can certainly do so by soldering, but once you've got it all together, this is going to be your look. Now, we're not done yet. Let me show you the key to this glowing effect, and that's the disc that's on the inside. Now, that's a piece of acrylic or plastic, however you want to determine it. That's actually from a kitchen ceiling light that I kept over time, and I've taken pieces from it for any particular project. And let me show you what this looks like. If you hold this diffusing disc too close to the light, you get a specular highlight. It doesn't look attractive. If you pull it away, it becomes softer. It gives you a glowing effect. So the key here is to place it away from the LED lens and push it in as far as you can, which means you'll have to trim it down in that circular fashion to push it closest to the center of the iris to keep it away from the LED lens. You want to put it close to the eye or the lens that's in the eye. And you want a textured surface that's facing away from the LED lens. You want the smooth side of this particular plastic, if in case yours does have it, to be then facing the LED lens. that texture on the opposite side will then diffuse that light and spread it out, making it looks really, really nice. Now, if you do this correctly, this is what it should look like. It shouldn't take you very long to do this. Snap it back together, cut out a portion for the switch on the left-hand side or the right, wherever you want it. This is what it looks like when it's in dim light. And it pulses however you select it. So it can pulse quicker or slower or have a mid-range. And of course the eyes here are a little bit more dim than the center simply because it's a different bulb. But you can change that out. If you get the ones from evandesigns.com, they have individually pulsing or flashing bulbs, and each one has its own tiny chip that's built into it. And you won't have to connect it to a pulse board. Now, if you started with this piece like many of us did, and you've got it fully painted and you installed the LEDs, this is what it should look like. But we still need to add the other pieces. So let's slap on these arms that go on the left and right side, and let's paint those. And in case you missed the first part of the video and you're just now jumping into the video, let me catch you up on the painting technique that was used on this particular project. Just to give you a review, this is dry brushing and airbrushing combined for this particular project. Now, I won't take you through the entire process because this is just a review. So as you can tell from the images here, I've already done some of the work. I'm just going to show you a little bit more of what that process was. The nice thing about having the video or recording your own work is you can go back and duplicate that technique so that your work matches, especially if in this case it comes in different fragments and you've got to put it together a piece at a time over a long period of time. Now, I'll be back once you're caught up. not looking too bad. We are still missing 2 pieces, but guess what? I just picked them up yesterday. Let's put them together and have a final look. So I hope that you enjoyed the video and that you learned something today. And guess what? We're approaching 6,000 subscribers. So yes, there is a prize to give away. So stick around and maybe you'll win that prize. In the meantime, keep customizing those figures. We'll see you next time.
Ha ha ha!